thing I barely survived made no sense at all. There was no logic, no reason behind it. But I saw it, I heard it, and I felt it on my own skin. That night I almost lost my mind. It came for me. Years later it found me again, and I'm terrified it will happen once more. It all started with one small, unpleasant event a long time ago. Back in 1989, I was still in high school. To put it mildly, I wasn't a good kid. More like a little punk skipping classes, messing around, always getting called to the principal's office. I wasn't alone. I had two friends like me, Alex and Jake. We were dumb kids, and one day in math class, a new kid was brought in. The whole class wasn't happy about it. He looked normal, but to say it nicely was a bit overweight. New kids got picked on. They immediately gave him a mean nickname, Fatty. He sat in the last row, pulled out a crumpled notebook, and started writing, even though the teacher wasn't dictating anything. It became clear right away that he was a quiet, shy guy. His name was Paul, though we hardly noticed when the teacher introduced him. Everyone teased Paul, from the worst troublemakers to the nerds. His clothes were dirty, hair greasy, and breath could knock you out. The smell came from him, even from a few feet away. That's why they called him Fatty, the dirty, fat, stinky kid. Nobody thought to help him or ask if he was okay. Instead, we humiliated him every chance we got. But if you needed help with homework or a test, Paul was the guy everyone went to. Everyone tolerated his stench. We were all little hypocrites. Tests, quizzes, spitballs, pulling chairs away. He never fought back, never said a word. Even then, I thought one day he might snap, bring a gun, and shoot us all. One Monday, our last two classes were gym outside on the school field. The spring sun was blazing. Everyone got dressed to play sports, including Paul. School let out with crowds flooding the front entrance. One of my friends decided to be a jerk. He ran up to Paul and pulled his pants and underwear down in front of everyone. The whole school laughed and pointed. Paul didn't take it. He grabbed his pants and ran back inside crying. For months he was tormented. I saw tears in his eyes for the first time, and I felt sorry for him. I even thought about being his friend, but it was too late. That day, Paul killed himself right after the incident on school grounds. We later learned that he jumped from a bathroom window, landed on a fence below, broke his neck, and died. It was a terrible day. He wasn't found immediately. We were still in class when they discovered his body outside near the school building. The place was swarming with police, detectives, and all sorts of people. They sent us home. The last thing I saw was his mother crying, screaming at our class, "You'll regret this, you evil bastards." Her words sent a chill down my spine. Nobody felt happy anymore. We all looked down, and every one of us, including me, felt guilty for his death. Everyone had their part in it, but soon the terrible event was forgotten. The funeral happened, the police case was quietly closed, and everything went back to normal. We kept studying, and me and my two friends kept destroying the teachers and everyone else at school. Years passed. Graduation, parties, breakups. Everyone went their own way. Some went to college, some to trade school, some started working, some got into trouble. Everyone forgot Fatty. I stopped talking to my classmates. They became mentally stunted degenerates. My two friends became junkies roaming the streets for their next fix. Me? I worked at a market for some guy, then saved money and opened my own clothing stall selling clothes from overseas. Business went well, and soon I saved enough to buy an apartment, where I live now. Everything was fine, until a few weeks ago, when we had a high school reunion at the school. After that, we went to a restaurant. I happened to have a day off, so I thought, why not go and see what's up? Very few people showed up, only 8 out of 30. Most of them worked in restaurants or stores. The girls had lots of kids and were still hoping to meet their prince on a white Maybach. It was a sad sight, really. But that's not the point. What shocked me was what I found out when I asked where everyone was and who was with whom. I learned that half of our former class had died. Some were killed, some were sick. There were accidents and suicides. Even my 2 school friends had kicked the bucket, just recently, from drug overdoses. This news hit me hard. I thought everyone was somehow working, or maybe somewhere abroad. But for things to turn out this way, I left the cafe in a terrible mood. It was around 11 p.m. and I walked home thinking about everything, about how things had turned out like this. It was awful. I came home, put the kettle on to make some tea, and turned on the computer. That reunion didn't cause me any positive emotions. Honestly, just shock and confusion. People lived normal lives, as if nothing, and suddenly, they were gone. There must have been a reason or a cause, but I probably will never know. After spending some time on the computer, I went to sleep. The next day, or rather the night, brought me many surprises. I worked all day and returned home exhausted around 11 p.m. As soon as I entered the building lobby, a strong, indescribable stench hit me. It smelled like a homeless person sleeping nearby, mixed with shit or alcohol, a strange and repulsive smell filling the entire entrance. I thought my eyes might start watering while I made my way up to my floor. Reaching my landing, I quickly opened the door and rushed inside, away from that awful smell. Definitely some bum locked himself inside the warm entrance and was sleeping somewhere. The entrance had no intercom, so nothing surprising. I was tired, put a kettle on the stove, poured instant coffee into a cup. While waiting for the water to boil, I took a shower, brewed my coffee, grabbed a cigarette, and went out to the balcony. Our yard was quiet. At that hour, you wouldn't see anyone outside, only rarely passing cars. I opened the balcony window and took a drag. Suddenly, my attention was caught by the corner of our building. I heard fast footsteps, like someone quickly ran behind the building and disappeared around the corner. I live on the 4th floor, but in the silence of the night, such sounds were quite clear. I put out the cigarette and listened carefully. Minutes later, the fast footsteps came again. Someone ran from the building corner to the playground quickly. I couldn't see who it was because the playground was hidden behind a tree. Strange. Kids? But so late? Shouldn't they be in bed? I ignored it, finished my coffee, lit another cigarette, and went to bed. Everything was normal until 2 a.m. when sounds started coming from the yard. The rusty swing creaking. Who the hell decides to use the swing at 2 a.m.? Die in terrible pain. Asshole, I muttered, half asleep. Then something happened that woke me completely. A stone flew into my window, leaving a big crack. "What the hell is this?" I shouted. I opened the balcony door just as another stone hit the window, now creating a web of cracks. Luckily, the windows are plastic and didn't shatter. Shocked, I looked outside, ready to shout at the bastard or throw something back. But my throat tightened and my body was paralyzed. Every hair on me stood on end. Right under my building stood a figure I recognized at once. Memories of 20 years ago hit my head. It was him. Paul. The bathroom, the school, Fatty. Is this a nightmare? A dream? I started slapping my cheeks, hoping to wake up and not see the silhouette near my building. But no, he stood in the same tracksuit, with his head tilted unnaturally to the right, resting on his shoulder. He stood in the yard, looking straight into my soul. I started shaking. Sleep vanished as if I never went to bed. He stood motionless, staring at me. Though I was hardly visible, deep down I knew he saw me and knew I was there. But how? He's dead. He died years ago. What kind of sick joke is this? The light near the building flickered. A sign it was him, my former classmate. Suddenly I ran outside on the balcony again. He was still there, but he cast no shadow. What the hell? I was trembling more and more, just thinking a person was outside my building. But it wasn't a person. Trying to calm down, I peeked quietly out the window. Suddenly, Fatty laughed and ran into the entrance. Kids' laughter sounded. Then a knock on the door. Then a doorbell, blending into a noisy clamour. I didn't want to check the peephole. The knocking continued, and with each knock, my heart was ready to jump out. After a minute, the knocking stopped and silence fell. Standing in the corridor for a few minutes, I was drawn to check the peephole. Looking out, no one was in the entrance or the yard. Strange. My heart pounded as I looked once more at the balcony window. No one. I started calming down, went to the bathroom, washed with cold water, came to myself. But relief lasted only until I turned on the kitchen light to grab a cigarette from the table. I switched on the light. And there it was. That creature sitting right on my kitchen window. Let me try to explain how it sat. It was outside the window, seemingly glued to the glass by its stomach. Now, looking close, I saw how it somehow held on to the window. It was definitely him. The fatty. He was pale as paper, with yellow glowing eyes like little flames. Foam dripped from his mouth. His neck was blue, and his head was neatly resting on his right shoulder. Saying I was frozen with terror would be an understatement. I couldn't even move. Before, I never understood why people get paralyzed by fear. How could it be? Now I know myself. Our staring contest didn't last long. Within a minute it began pounding on the window, its mouth moving, like it was mumbling something or trying to speak to me. I don't know what it was saying. I heard nothing through the double-glazed window. Still unable to move, after a while I suddenly felt my limbs again. I didn't come up with anything better than rushing to the room and grabbing an icon, one left by the previous owners. It was pretty, so I never threw it away, even though I'm not really religious. Now I had to turn to the Almighty to drive this evil away from me. Grabbing the icon, I pressed it against the window, but the creature didn't react at all. It hung there, pounding on the glass as before. While all this was happening, a chain of memories started forming in my head. I remembered everything. Paul's mother screaming at our class, begging us to pity him, calling us bastards and monsters. The deaths of our classmates all fit together, and the ones still alive at the reunion were mostly those who hadn't bothered him much. Paul was the first to die, and Ethan, the one who pulled Paul's pants down, was next. Flinging away these thoughts from my head, I started speaking to him. Paul, forgive me. I never wanted to hurt you, really. What do you want from me now? I didn't do anything to you, so why are you here? In response, he stopped banging on the glass and stared at me. I was shaking like a leaf, I swear to God. Then it smiled and made a gesture, telling me to open the window. Just a little. I did as it asked, walking closer and slightly opening the window. I just opened the window a little. It turned its head toward the opening and said in a thin, squeaky voice, "You will die." With one hand it started banging on the window again, and with the other it slipped through the opening, trying to grab me. Without thinking long, I grabbed a knife from a chair and stabbed the fat hand with all my strength. It screeched, and black thick liquid poured onto the floor like tar. It quickly pulled its hand back, unstuck from the window and crawled away somewhere. I sat on the floor, hands on my head. What the hell just happened? I sat next to a puddle of black goo, trying to understand all this. But at that moment, barely anything made sense or could be explained. That incident will never admit a logical explanation. And the scariest thing is, I accidentally smeared that liquid on my hand and leg when I was wiping the floor. Now, 2 days have passed since that terrible night, and my hand and leg have gone numb. I don't feel them at all. This morning I even noticed some kind of holes. I'm scared. I need to call a friend to take me to the hospital.